So now we're going to talk about the heuristic rule of giving appropriate feedback. And you do that, when you're using an interface, how do you know what just happened? From the feedback that it gives you. So, in the real world, feedback happens instantaneously, right? You bounce a ball, it bounces back up. But in the computational world, we're designing what people see and what they hear. So it's not always easy to provide good feedback. But we can do it with these heuristics. And the first one is to show the system status. So you want to show a person what's going on with the system at any point, right? And you'll notice this sounds kind of familiar, right, to something that we talked about earlier. Does it? What does it sound like? Micro interactions, yes, of course. And and how you show the status, it depends on the response time. So if the user triggers something and the response takes less than a second, just show the result right away, right? Like you click something in the Google box, you click search, it shows up in less than a second. If it takes 1 to 5 seconds, it's good to have some kind of indicator of status, so you know that the computer isn't stuck, right? Because imagine if that little spinning wheel wasn't there, and you were just tapping something, and then it took 5 seconds to show up. That would be and then it suddenly showed up. That would be kind of choppy, kind of weird. You're not getting feedback on what's happening. If it takes longer than 5 seconds, show a progress bar. Because that way, you're indicating where exactly in the process you are, right? In order to make sure that, see if the action is completed or not. Another example of this is this. So this is interesting for 2 reasons. There's 2 types of progress bars here, right? You'll notice at first there is a progress bar giving indeterminate feedback, right? So it's just showing, hey, something is happening. And then as soon as it starts loading the page, it turns into a progress bar that goes from left to right and shows you how long it takes, what's actually happening on the page and when the page is done loading. This is really cool for a lot of reasons. What I like particular about this is it almost doesn't feel as if you're waiting, right? And that's not a default reaction. They could have just put like a little spinner here and say loading page, right? But instead there's this motion happening, there's this constant feedback happening that, and it feels as if the interface is constantly in motion. One thing to remember about progress bars is that they don't need to always be linear. They can have the shape of a circle. And they do in a lot of cases. The point is just that you're showing progress. Yeah, so if it takes longer than 5 seconds, show a progress bar. Whether it's straight or circular, doesn't matter. If it takes longer than a minute, it's good to show a timer. In part because progress bars don't always proceed linearly with respect to time, right? I mean, everyone who starts up their MacBook knows this. So you want to know how long this interaction is going to take if it takes longer than a couple seconds. The same thing you're doing for time, you can show for space, right? So if your webmail system shows you how much of your inbox you've used, that's nice because as you get close, you can start to decide to do something about it. If all of a sudden it just tells you, sorry, mailbox full, that's really frustrating. What you also want to do is, a lot of times when people are using a site, is they don't know what to do, right? So you need to show them what to do and show them what the next step is. So what's cool about this one is once you've entered your email address, it doesn't just say, hey, great, thanks for your email. I mean, it does say that, but it also tells you what to expect next, right? So that's really, really important, especially for users who are just browsing your site with fragmented attention, their phone's going off, their TV's playing. You want to give people a clear order of steps to follow. And you always want to show when something has been completed. It doesn't have to be with a big orange icon, but whenever, if you think back to micro-interactions, you think back to trigger, rule, feedback. Once the action has been completed, you want to give a feedback that that action has been completed. And here's in the form of a big, big orange button. In the example that I showed earlier with the web page loading, the feedback is that the web page is loaded. Finally, you want to prevent errors before they even occur. I guess another, I really love, if you do this one well, it makes such a huge difference in your designs. If you can design in a way where it's impossible for people to do something wrong, they will always have a feeling of success, right? Makes sense. Great example of this is the Apple Lightning connector, right? You cannot plug this in the wrong way. No matter which way you plug it in, it's always right. Compared to the old connector, where it was almost impossible to tell without touching it onto the phone if you even plugged it in the right way. I guess there was a little icon on the front that gave you an indicator, but it wasn't as clear as just having something that you can plug in each way. Another great example of this is Twitter. If you put in a tweet and you start hitting the 140 character limit, so this number counts down. First it's a gray number, and then when it goes to the last 20 characters or so, it starts turning red. You're about to hit your character. An error is about to occur, right? And then when you go over it, it shows you exactly by how much you've gone over with 2 forms of feedback. So then you can write your tweet, and then you can, maybe turn the U into just a U, or remove this space to make sure that you get the message out. And that's not a default response. That's something that took some thought and engineering effort to realize. The default response is to just put a little code in there that says 140 character limit, and as soon as you reach it, that takes 5 seconds to do. And as soon as you reach it, you just can't type anymore, right? You keep typing, but the cursor just stays there. Having a functionality like this, that was probably pretty hard to implement originally, but the payoff for it is so worth it. That's one of those examples. That's an example of a really good micro interaction. That's an example of the difference between a product that you'll tolerate and a product that anticipates your needs. Another great example of this is in this contact form. If you put in the phone number, it automatically puts, you don't need to put in parentheses. There aren't parentheses there that you need to type into and then put 3 numbers in and then type into the next field and put in another 3 numbers. You just type in your 10-digit number and it automatically adds the right format. It's another example of the computers doing the type of heavy lifting that that they're good at doing and that they should be doing. Some more Google examples where, if you mistype Olympic, first of all, it gives you immediate feedback. Secondly, it gives you the right feedback, the feedback that you expect. And if you attach a file, if you forget to attach a file, you get that notification. And what's also cool about this is that it's relatively intelligent, right? So it doesn't just respond to I've attached, it also responds to I have attached, or in this case, to find attached, right? That's something that someone had to think of. Those are rules that some engineers at some point needed to establish. A system, an electronic system does not have this intelligence unless there are some people imbuing it with that intelligence. Of course, password indicators are always a great example of preventing errors before they happen, getting immediate feedback of whether your password is good or not. But so if you design well, you can prevent probably 80, 90% of errors before they ever happen by putting in that extra effort, by front-loading the effort like that. But errors will happen. People are human. Things go wrong. Sometimes people get lost. And in those cases, you want to make the problem clear and provide a path forward. So, for example, in this field, if you type in your password or your username wrong, the feedback that you get is invalid username or password. But you don't really know which one is wrong, right? Maybe you have multiple usernames. Maybe the username wasn't your email, but it was actually some other name. Maybe you only use this thing once a month and you just forgot. So it's not really helpful feedback. Also, there's no way to, you'll see it in the next example, but even if you've forgotten something, like there's no way to open up a dialogue that tells me how to recover my username or how to recover my password. It's just telling you, oops, sorry, well, you messed this up. Try again. It's kind of rude, lazy. Better example, by MailChimp. Depending on what you type in there, it, it's better on a lot of levels, right? So it's better, the wording is better, right? Because something went wrong. So this is an opportunity, this is a moment where people are frustrated, right? So the system is polite but direct. Sorry, we couldn't find an account with that username. And then it gives you a path forward. Can we help you recover your username? And it's clickable. And it also shows you with this error with marking this box red where the problem occurred. And it also offers specific feedback based on what went wrong. So, if your username is wrong, it'll tell you that. If your password is wrong, it'll tell you that, and also give you ways to correct it. Great, great example. Another good one is, if you're signing up for Facebook, those few people that don't have a Facebook account yet, and you just click submit without entering anything, it puts an exclamation point around everything. It gives you 2 indicators of where something went wrong, but it never actually tells you that you did something wrong, right? So it's giving you really good feedback, but it's also doing it in a way where it doesn't make you feel stupid, because one of the Alan Cooper's key rules of good design is that good design doesn't make the user feel stupid, right? You never want to make people feel stupid. So in this case, it marks everything that's wrong, and then it puts a little marker here telling you where to start. And it's like, what's your name? And then you can enter it. Really, really, really well done. Gives you like a nice on-ramp to get going. Here, this dialog box, this is not a type of message that you like to see, but it does a good job of telling you what to do next, right? It's like, hey, something went wrong, but here are the next few steps that you need to take in order to remedy this. So it gives me a path forward. This is a cool example too. If you put in a search term on Amazon that doesn't have a lot of results, it would be very easy to just show a page with one result on it, right? But going the extra mile, thinking 1 degree further out, and giving people a path forward, right under the most relevant result, it just starts showing you results with one term removed or with the term corrected, right? So people can keep browsing. You never want to, and the reason they do that is because people, when they're browsing through your site, they're doing it with sort of like half of their attention, sort of like just kind of like click, sort of like how our parents used to just zap through TV stations with half attention. That's how we scroll through our phones with like kind of half attention. And it invokes a kind of a flow, right? And when you get a message, an error message, or you get something like, oh, there's only one result for this thing that I entered, it interrupts that flow. And as soon as that flow is interrupted, it's more likely that people will go somewhere else. And you never want to do that. You never want people to go somewhere else, except somewhere else on your site. You know, some errors or problems maybe even things that we don't realize, right? That's the challenge of phishing on the web when people are trying to get your passwords. So it's a really nice job. Like this is, I think, Firefox, but this is Safari probably, but they do a really good job of communicating. Like if you go to a site that's been reported as a bad site and you don't realize it, like, you know, Microsift instead of Microsoft, right? Then it'll flag that site as a potentially bad site. And but at the same time, it provides a path forward, right? If you know what you're doing, you can just ignore the warning. But hey, we just wanted to let you know something's going on here. The other component of providing help is to provide useful help, right? So in this case with Etsy, you have like this really great help page that gives you like topics, some of the most used topics at the top, some of the most frequently asked questions at the top, but also a way to search for certain topics that you're trying to figure out. Or if you're going through Google Chrome and you type in help and you put in suggestions, it automatically shows you suggestions from your bookmarks, but also certain help topics. But there's a way to find help, right? An example of how to not do it is end-user license agreements. Like these almost feel as if they were intentionally designed badly, right? Because you have these contracts that are actually really important, but they're hidden behind this big form that no one's ever going to read, and it kind of forces people to just click next and click accept, because otherwise they can't use the software that they're trying to use. A much better way of doing this is showing people like in a human readable version, showing them a summary of what's going on, and then giving them access to the full thing if they need it.